Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my kitchen. I'm Alicia, and this week I'm going to be working on putting up some peaches. I picked these up just recently at our local farmers market, and I have a few things that I want to do with these. Of course, I just want to can some of these plain. I like to have them on hand to make peach cobblers and things like that. Maybe do some like peach hand pies, turnovers, and I also want to do some peach jelly, some peach BBQ sauce, and some peach salsa. I have never done those last two things, so those are new recipes to me. I am going to be using this Ball Complete Book of not hand, home preserving. Getting tongue-tied this morning. So the barbecue sauce recipe and the salsa recipe are in here. So this is what I'm going to be using for those two. And just to can the peaches and make the jelly, I'm going to be using my granny's recipes. That's what I have used as long as I can remember, and those always work well for me. So I'll be sharing that with you all this week. So I am trying to spread out this process into a couple of days. I have learned over the last few years that it doesn't work for me to try to do a whole lot in one day. I just feel really overwhelmed and I tend to rush through things, and then I'll mess up the recipe and things don't turn out quite right. So today I am going to hopefully do the peach barbecue sauce and get the peaches canned and also get the juice made for the jelly. So today is Wednesday and tonight is church. So fingers crossed that I get through everything that I want to do today. And then tomorrow I will go ahead and make the jelly and work on the salsa. So all that being said, let's get started with these peaches. First thing that I want to do for all of these recipes, I am going to go through all of these peaches and just start washing them. Like some of them already have bad spots, so I don't want to use those. So I'm going to look through all of these and wash them really well. And the first recipe that I want to start on is the barbecue sauce, and I need 6 cups of washed and cut up peaches. I decided just to peel my peaches. You don't have to do that. You can just boil some water, drop your peaches in for about 30 seconds to a minute, and then place them in an ice bath, and those peels will just come right off. I just normally like to peel these like this, and then I can just set aside those peels and use them to make juice for my jelly. So, of course, you do whatever you want to do and whatever works best for you if you decide to do any peach preserving. And these are yellow peaches. All of my recipes said not to use white peaches, so I did have to wait just a little bit later in the season to find those at my farmer's market. And these are also freestone peaches, so that pit just removes really easily when you cut through these, and then you can just dice them up or however you need them for your recipe. While I'm working on the peaches, Graceland is going to start working on the rest of the veggies that we need. We need, I think it's 1 cup of, 1 cup of finely seeded chopped red bell pepper, 1 cup of onion finely chopped, and then it is 3 tablespoons of garlic finely chopped. So we're going to work on finishing up all the peaches, get the veggies done, and add everything to a pot with some other seasonings. I I found this really cool vintage garlic press at a local store. It's been probably a couple of months ago, and I just haven't had the opportunity to use it yet. And I wanted to use it for this recipe and just test it out and see how it works. And just to show you guys that I found one of these, and I just loved the way that it looked. And it adds some really neat rustic charm to my decor in my kitchen. I love vintage and farmhouse stuff. So I thought this was the perfect fit to go with everything else that I had, and it works really great. I'm not exactly sure what metal this is, but it works really good for me, and it pressed this garlic perfectly, made it just the right size for this recipe. Okay, now that I have everything chopped up, I'm going to go ahead and add it all to this pot. I already have the peaches in there, so I'm going to go ahead and add the bell peppers, the onions, and the garlic. Ooh, some strong onions. Okay, stir that up just a little bit and add my garlic. And I didn't fully double the recipe. It's about maybe 1.5 of the measurements. I just wanted to have enough to fill 12 of my 8-ounce jars. So hopefully I have measured out enough of all of the ingredients to be able to do that. All right, now we need 1 1/4 cups of honey. And this is also some honey that we got at the farmer's market. So for one recipe, it was 1 1/4. I'm going to do 1 1/2. Okay. All right, and now I need 3/4 of a cup of apple cider vinegar. So again, I'm going to do about a cup since I'm doing a little bit more than one recipe. Vinegar, and then you need 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire. So I'll do about 1 1/2. I can get that off of there. I already had everything off. All right, so we'll do about 1 1/2 tablespoons of Worcestershire. And then we need some dry mustard, hot pepper flakes, and some salt. So it's 2 teaspoons of the hot pepper flakes, and that's where I'm going to leave it. I don't like a lot of spice. My husband does, so he can add extra spice a lot easier than I can take out the heat. So we'll let him do that if he wants to. And then 2 teaspoons, not tablespoons, of the dry mustard. Do 2 1/2. And then it's 2 teaspoons of salt. So I'll do 2 1/2. 2 1/2. Then you just want to mix everything really good. Bring this to a boil over medium-high heat. And then you'll turn down the heat a little bit. And you will simmer this for about 25 minutes until it is like a thin barbecue sauce that you get at the grocery store. While my barbecue sauce is coming up to that boil, I am going to go ahead and just start cooking down my peach peels to get the juice that I need to make my jelly. So I'm just going to go ahead and add the peels and the centers of those peaches to this pot. And if I think I need more, I'll just add some extra peels while I'm working on the rest of the peaches over here. But you just want to cover these with just enough water so that all of your peels are covered in your water. You don't want to add too much or you won't have a lot of peach flavor and your jelly won't set. So add just enough, and you want to turn this on medium heat. Bring that to a boil and just reduce that heat and let that simmer probably for about 20 to 30 minutes, just until the water changes to a nice pink color. And then you'll just strain out all the peels and parts of those peach pits, and you'll have juice to make your jelly. My barbecue sauce has cooked down now, and I have turned the heat off. Just let this sit for a few minutes to cool off. And I have a confession to make. This cooked a whole lot longer than the 25 minutes that it said to in the book, because I've been working on just getting all the other peaches peeled and cut up, ready to go in my quart jars and can those. And I do want to use my immersion blender for this. I don't want this to be chunky, so I'm going to do that before I ladle it up into my jars. This barbecue sauce was sweet, a little tangy, and had just the right amount of heat. It was perfect for some grilled chicken that I had later on the week, and I may need to do a second batch because I don't know if this one will last me until next year. And this is a water bath recipe, so I just add these to my canner. Make sure I have all of those jars covered with at least 1.5 to 2 inches of water. Bring that to a boil, and then you want to process that for 15 minutes. So just to can the peaches, I am just cutting those into just smaller segments like that, if you can see, I hope. And then when I have enough, I'll just pack them in my jars and fill it with water and get those canned. And I'll be sure and tell you at what pressure and how long in just a minute. I'll just have to check my recipe. But I've got so many things going on at the moment and my hands are sticky. I don't want to grab my recipe. Recording. Sticky. Are you having problems there?
Second.
Yeah. Just sit it over there on that side. Ah! Runaway peach. I did the shake and twist method to debubble these peaches instead of using a skewer or something like that because I knew I would probably just get that stuck in the peaches. And I will say, I wish I would have packed these a little bit tighter. I'll show you guys what happened with my peaches in just a minute. So if you can them, be sure that you pack them pretty tightly and make sure that you get as many of those bubbles out as you can. As always, you want to use a clean lid for your canning and just do fingertip tight so you don't have any buckling with your lids. I've had 12 quarts of peaches, so that's 2 runs. My canner will hold 7 quarts at a time, and I already have one of those done over there. But you want to pressure your peaches at 10 pounds for 10 minutes. Unless your fruit was already really ripe, then you only want to do that for 8 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and get this second batch on and get that done and set out and cool overnight and just make sure all of my jars seal. So my peach peelings have cooked down and I have quite a bit of juice in here to make jelly. So what I have here, I just have a fine mesh strainer and some cheesecloth. And I'm just going to ladle everything into here. I may have to do a couple of different batches because this sieve is not very big. And we'll just see how much juice I get. I'm hoping I have enough to do a couple of batches of jelly because I don't have any peach right now, and peach jelly is my son's favorite, and I haven't made any in a couple of years. So hopefully I will have quite a bit of juice in here, enough to make maybe between 9 and 10 pints of jelly, hopefully. So I'm just going to keep ladling this out, kind of mashing that down a little bit just to help get some of that juice out. And I will probably let this sit for 5 or 6 hours just so I can get a lot of juice out of there. It's day 2 of preserving peaches. I did get everything done yesterday that I wanted to do and made it to church, but I was absolutely exhausted, you guys. Canning is a lot of work, but it is definitely worth it. So I've already washed up the peaches that I have left, and I did set aside just a few to make some peach hand pies later this week. And what I have left to do today is I'm going to make some peach salsa, and that comes from the Ball Canning book as well. And I'm going to go ahead and make probably a couple of batches of jelly from the juice that I cooked down yesterday. One thing I did want to mention, you want to use peaches that are slightly underripe if you're going to make this salsa. If you make salsa with overly ripe peaches, you're going to wind up with mushy salsa. And I'm hoping that this one will turn out kind of with just a little bit of crunch. I don't want it to be super soft. So that's why I kept out some of the peaches yesterday that weren't quite as ripe. So those are the ones that I'm going to be using for the salsa. And I'm also going to be using those for the hand pies that I make later on. And for the salsa, I do need 6 cups of chopped peaches. So that's what I am working on now, just to see how much I have. I may do a little bit more than that just to see if I can get a few more jars to put in the can house. And I've already added a half a cup of white vinegar into my sauce pot on the stove. So while I'm cutting up my peaches, I am going to measure them out just to see how many I have. I'm going to go ahead and add them to that vinegar so they don't turn brown. So everything that you need for the peach salsa is a half a cup of white vinegar, 6 cups of chopped pitted peeled peaches, 1 1/4 cups chopped red onions, 4 jalapeno peppers finely chopped, 1 red bell pepper seeded and chopped, a half a cup of loosely packed finely chopped cilantro, 2 tablespoons liquid honey, 1 clove of garlic finely chopped, 1 1/2 teaspoons of ground cumin, and a half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. I will say I left out the cilantro and the garlic. My family doesn't really like those flavors in salsa, especially a canned salsa like this one, so I opted to leave those 2 ingredients out. If you make this one, you can season it to your family's liking. And once you have all of your ingredients added to your sauce pot, you want to just bring that to a boil over medium-high heat, and you want to stir this one constantly. You will reduce that heat and boil it gently, stirring it frequently until it's a little thickened. This takes about 5 minutes. And then you can remove that from your heat and you'll ladle it into your jars. This one is also a water bath recipe, so it's the same thing as the barbecue sauce. You just want to make sure you get all of your jars covered, and you will process these for 15 minutes. I wanted to show you how just my canned peaches turned out. Some of them are perfect. They have plenty of water and look really good. And then I have, let's see, which one do I want to show you? This one, it's about half full with liquid. So I'm not exactly sure what happened with the ones like this. I don't have many of those. And I did use my granny's process that she always used to can peaches. And then I looked in my pressure cooker book. Should have done that first. But it says to pressure these at 5 pounds pressure, and I did 10. So I'm not sure if that's what caused a lot of this siphoning to happen with some of these jars. So what I'm going to do, I'll just use these that don't have a lot of liquid in them first, and just keep these in my can house. So, and if I do any more peaches this year, which I probably won't, I have enough peach stuff, I think. I'll make sure that I use the 5 pound pressure. We finally made it to the peach jelly portion. As I'm watching this back, I'm thinking like, wow, this is a lot of peach stuff. But I'm thankful for every jar that I got through this process. So for the jelly, you will need 3 1/2 cups of your prepared juice, 1 packet of Sure Gel, and I used 1 teaspoon of butter. My granny's recipe, she added 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, so you can do either of those when you make the jelly. You want to add your juice, the butter, and the Sure Gel first. Get all of that stirred up and bring that to a boil. In the meantime, I like to measure out my sugar, and for this one, I needed 4 1/2 cups of granulated sugar. And once your juice comes up to a continuous rolling boil, you will want to add your sugar. This is the part I hate about making jelly. I always get a little nervous when I have something so hot and the sugar mixture boiling on the stove. So I stay there and I don't move. Watch this constantly, stir this constantly, and just keep a very close eye on that. You want to stir until your sugar is completely dissolved and you will bring that back up to another continuous boil, and you want to boil that for 1 minute. So I set my timer right there above my stove, and I turn down the heat just a little bit. Otherwise, mine tends to want to boil over. So once you do that, you just remove it from the heat, and you want to ladle that into hot jars and also have some lids that are sitting in some warm water. This will just help everything to seal. And I did have just a little bit of foaming on the top of my jelly, even though I did use that butter. It wasn't too bad, so I just used my metal ladle and just skimmed that off of the top while I was ladling out that jelly into my jars. And if you follow the recipe either in the Sure Gel packet or one that you find in a canning book, it does say to water bath your jelly. I've never had to do that. I always do the invert method. That's the way I was taught how to do it by my granny. My mom still does it that way too. So I try to work as quickly as I can when I am jarring up my jelly. And then I will just make sure everything, all the lids are on there as tightly as I need them. Turn them upside down, and I will let them sit this way for anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes, and then I will just turn them right side up, and these always seal for me. So if you do jelly, you can pick the water bath or the inversion method, whichever one you are more comfortable with. I like to have a sweet treat every so often. We don't have these every week or even every other week. But since I had all of these fresh peaches, I wanted to make some hand pies. So I used about 4 of my larger peaches, and I just diced those up into smaller bite-sized pieces, and I had already added 2 tablespoons of butter and 1/4 cup of brown sugar to my cast iron skillet, and had just been melting that before I added my peaches. And I am kind of taking a shortcut here, you guys. I love to do things from scratch, but I have not found a gluten-free recipe yet for puff pastry that I have tried. So my local grocery store carries sheets of that gluten-free puff pastry, so I will pick that up occasionally and use it for desserts. It is pretty expensive, so I do have a recipe that I want to try. Hopefully, I'm going to be showing you guys how to do that in a later video. So I just let my peaches cook down in my sauce for just a little while. I did not want them to turn to mush, and I just scooped them out and left quite a bit of that juice still remaining in that skillet because I am going to make a finished caramel sauce with that in just a little bit. So you just want to fold over your puff pastry, and I did forget to do one step while I was making these. You want to brush those edges with some water. That just helps them stick a little bit better. And then I just crimp the edges with a fork. And I've made these with an apple filling too. That is really good later in the fall season. But these were absolutely delicious and tasted just like summer. So I did just take a knife and just did some little score marks on the top just so the steam could release, and these would bake and be golden and crispy. And I also made just a simple egg wash with 1 egg and just a little bit of water, and just brush that over the top. If you use gluten-free stuff, you know that it tends not to brown very well, so you want to either brush an egg wash or some heavy cream or something like that on top of any pastries that you are using that are gluten-free. And I just followed the instructions on the package of this puff pastry to bake these. So I baked them at 400 degrees for about 15 minutes, just until they were as golden as I wanted them. And I just finished off that sauce on the stove. Just let that cook down a little bit more. And I also had just a little bit extra of that peach filling. So I just spooned that over the top of each of these pastries and drizzled some of that salted caramel sauce over the top of these. And these were so good, you guys. I think I'm going to get a couple more sheets of that puff pastry and make some of these and keep in the freezer. Are you hungry yet? I think I could really go for one of those peach hand pies right about now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you have been inspired and maybe want to try some of these recipes. Let me know in the comments if you try any of these, and I thank you guys so much for watching today. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And until I see you again, I hope you have a blessed day.